listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. We are partnered. We have teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines this season to make all of our picks right here. And here's the deal. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use bonus code PHNX and you will get up to $200 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code PHNX. Place a pregame moneyline wager in the amount of at least $10 on any market. At standard odds price, you will receive $200 in bonus bets instantly, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Just make sure you use bonus code PHNX when you sign up. And now listen to the disclaimer from Shane Diefenbach.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
All right, now with that out of the way, joined by the defensive GOAT of U of A basketball, the great Reggie Geary. Hello, Reg. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me back on.
Of course, man. Always a privilege. All right, first, we'll talk Kerr Kriisa going to West Virginia. Wish him nothing but the best there. Had a really good, win-loss record here at the U of A. I think sometimes, sometimes just a change of scenery can be best for both sides, and this seems to be maybe that situation right here, Reg.
Yeah, no, Mike, I agree with you there. I just think, Kerr, he had a good career at Arizona, but I thought it kind of it played itself out to, I think it was probably by the end there, both sides were probably thinking, it'd be a good time for a change. And so to hear Kerr going to West Virginia, which is very interesting to me to hear he's going to play for Bob Huggins. Right. But obviously they saw some things on tape and film they like, and we wish Kerr nothing but the best. He's an excellent young man.
I think, too, it also shows you, too, that Kylan Boswell, I believe, is ready to take that next step right here. I mean, you could see, Reg, that watching him this year, and again, you came up in the middle of point guard U right here. I mean, you really did. I've always thought that, Damon was what made the school sexy. You continued that with the defense. Then you had Mike. Then you had JT. Then you had Jason Gardner, et cetera. So we've seen real difference makers, and I think that Kylan Boswell has the potential, and again, I don't want to put him in that category, but Kylan Boswell has the potential, Reggie, I think, to be a real difference maker for this Wildcats team this coming season.
Yeah, I think you're 100% accurate there. And I think it's fair. Kylan, he's a special talent to show at such a young age, 17 years old, a guy who should have been a high school senior, to come in and play at the college game the way he did. As soon as he got his foot situated in terms of having confidence back in the foot that he had broke that year, his junior year in high school. Once he got that confidence back, man, he really was a difference maker on both ends of the floor. He's an excellent defender, has great quick hands. I can't all the time. Deflections. Defensively, he's someone who competes night in, night out, which I love. Offensively, very reminiscent of Mike Bibby in terms of never getting too high, too low emotionally. Came in with great confidence day one and was already a contributor. So I'm a big fan. If you don't know, I'm a big fan of Kylan, and I'm hoping, like I say, he has the keys to the car going forward.
All right, now let's talk about the defensive side right there, because I think a lot of people look at it and his shooting really came around towards the end of the year. But he's got a thick build to begin with right there, a naturally thick build. How does that help when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, being able to guard a variety of positions, depending on who Arizona brings in?
Yeah, physically, Kylan, he has a good body. Defensively, becoming a good defender, especially in today's game, it's all about moving your feet and kind of fouling with your chest, showing both hands.
Right.
Right. You kind of can manipulate a guy with your hands, and so for him to kind of be a burly chested point guard, it definitely helps him. What helps him even more so, though, is his mentality. You could see it when he went against Tiger Campbell, when he went against, another high-profile point guard. He accepted the challenge. He wanted the challenge. And anytime as a coach, and I know from my 14 years of coaching, anytime that your point guard, the tip of the spear, is that tough guy, that defensive guy, it really sets the tone for the rest of your ball club.
All right. As far as this past season, I thought before the year that Tommy Lloyd made, I thought this was more about a top 15 to 25 team. And to be honest with you, I thought Tommy Lloyd did a very good job with this team, kind of masking some of the weaknesses here, because again, it was a very good team, but you've seen the great teams here. I've seen the great teams here. I mean, heck, you played on you played on some of those teams. But, I think it kind of showed at the end that Arizona didn't necessarily have a real go-to guy or a guy that could really break you down off the bounce right there. And I think that kind of showed itself. But that's also, to me, kind of kudos to Tommy Lloyd for being able to get through that year without it being, that being totally exposed. And again, when you look at the squad, there wasn't a guy that you looked at and you're like, all right, he's a for sure NBA guy this coming year. That to me is a tip of the cap to Tommy Lloyd, but it's also something that I think in Arizona, kind of this thing you need to address moving forward.
Most definitely. I think Tommy and the staff did a great job this year in playing the hand they were dealt. They obviously still a very good basketball team. But as you mentioned, there wasn't a breakdown guard. Keep in mind, Kerr Kriisa and Courtney Ramey, they shot a lot of threes this year. They had a really difficult time producing shots at the rim,
Right.
Getting to the line. So from a backcourt standpoint, that's very difficult playing that way. Obviously, in the front court, you had two heavy hitters in Ballo and Azuolas Tubelis that they really relied heavily on. I thought maybe, in just my opinion, I thought Azuolas could have been more of a kind of a go-to guy in terms of getting heavy touches, especially late in the second half. That
Right.
really never realized. But, Tommy and staff, they realized, hey, we're about a 7-man squad. I thought they tried to develop an 8 or 9 guy, and they just never really got there. And when you're only playing with 7 and your guards have a hard time producing on twos and free throws, it can make for some tough sledding at tough times.
All right, let me ask you this. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about player development on this because, again, that's something I think Tommy Lloyd's done a really good job of. Umar Ballo obviously made a big jump from year one at Arizona to year 2. Let me ask you this, can he make that jump in year 3 to becoming, and again, he's a totally different kind of player, but having maybe a Ben Davis type impact from just being able to dominate down low perspective?
I think so. I think he's shown that at times when he gets heavy touches and his field goal attempts are up there. He's so efficient. He's so big. He can be that guy. I think we talk about maybe next steps for him. He gets to the free throw line as much as anybody in the country. Becoming somewhere closer to a 70% free throw shooter is an area he can really improve on. But a lot of times it just comes down to touches. When he was getting touches, it seemed to be his points were matching his rebounding numbers. They're not, handling double teams is an area that he improved on as the year went on because people started kind of focusing on that. So I think there's still room for improvement. And the great thing about Ballo is he's such a great young man. He works so hard. He really wants it. I can see him be even more of a force next year.
What would you like to see from him coming into? What would you like to see from him? And again, Reggie going stealth here for a second. There you go. I like that. What would you like to see from Umar Ballo? Because again, when I look at the starting lineup, and Jacob, if you could put up the players that Arizona's got coming back should have coming back this coming year, if you can pull up that graphic right there. We started with Kylan Boswell. Let's talk a little bit about Umar right there. Can Umar continue to reshape his body in the way that he was able to this past year? Or is that kind of one of those things that he's probably kind of who he is at this point? Reg, I think you're muted right there. Okay, yeah, we can see. All right, Reg,
can you hear me now?
Muted. Yep, can hear you right now. You're good to go, my guy.
Yeah, sorry about that. A call come in.
Very good.
I think Ballo, I definitely think as he gets more mature and understands health and eating and the weight room, I think he will get in better shape. I look back at Kevin Love. You remember Kevin Love in LA and the transformation he went over time and become an NBA player. Ballo can do similar things like that. Like I say, this year was the first time he got heavy minutes. So he has a better understanding of what that means. So you think this offseason, he'll do a better job or do a good job of getting in shape so he can log more minutes and get more touches.
All right. Now, Pella Larson right here. Pella, to me, I think we kind of know what Pella is, and that's a good thing right here. Obviously, the description here is a little bit off that he's not 5'8", 160 or average 17 a game. But Pella, to me, is a guy that can play really, really good defense. He can score. I think he can shoot better than his numbers indicated. He showed that at the end. But to me, Pella's Pella to me isn't a frontline player in that I don't think that he can ever average 17 or 18 a game just because I don't really think the handles are there. But that doesn't mean that he can't be a guy, Reg, that is an all-conference defensive player, is getting you 12, 4, and 4, and is a really good kind of peripheral, fourth guy or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Pella, and I think I really liked how you said, like, he's kind of a little bit of a stat sheet stuffer in the fact that, yeah, he can get you 12, 15 points, 5 rebounds. He's going to get you, a few assists. He's going to take 2 charges. He might be Arizona,
Sure.
He might be Arizona's best all-around player, in all honesty. And I don't want to say he couldn't be a 17-point scorer. He shoots the 3 well. When he puts his head down and able to get his shoulder by people, he's able to get to the rim and slash, especially along that baseline. Right. But he's a guy who can get you, in my mind, get you a couple of layups, get you 2 threes, and get to the free throw line, 3 or 4 times for his 15 or 16 points to go with everything else he does. So I really like the year he had, especially at the end there, and I'm really excited for his future. All
right, Henry Vasar is also a fascinating guy for me because Lloyd said one time off record, and I don't think that I'm spilling any secrets right here, but he said, a lot of times with big men, you can struggle, and then it just kind of clicks for you. And, there's obviously examples here at Arizona, probably no better than a guy who you played with for 1 year in AJ Bramlett. Everybody, that sophomore year, people forget, AJ was not, a lot of people didn't have kind things to say, but then as the NCAA tournament hit, AJ figured it out. And you know what? He led the tournament in rebounds and became a force and was a force for the rest of his career. With Henry Vasar, what is that next move for him? What does Reggie Geary want to see from him this coming season?
Yeah, Henry he needs to have a big summer. He came into U of A with a little bit of a little fanfare, a little bit of hoopla in terms of being this European kid coming out of, I think, the Real Madrid youth program, where they were thinking there were some expectations that he was going to be able to step in right away, and that didn't materialize. Mostly from just a physical standpoint, the physicality of the game, and maybe the speed was a little bit greater than he was anticipating. And so now that he's had a year to see that, this summer it's imperative because he's not going to overwhelm you physically. He's more of a skilled guy, more of a face-up guy. I see him a more traditional NBA 2023 type player where he can step threes and kind of put it down for 1 or 2 dribbles. And so skill-wise, he just needs to keep sharpening up on his skills. Physically, he needs to get physically stronger. Because even though he's a face-up guy, Tommy and staff are going to ask him to guard 5s. And I go back to this season where he was guarding N'Faly Dante in the Oregon game. And honestly, it was just a man versus a boy. Right. The size discrepancy was just too much for him really to stay on the floor. And so he needs to physically get stronger. Hopefully either here in the States or going back home, he's playing a lot and regaining his confidence because he sat for long periods of time. Right. He needs to get back out and get playing again and get that love and that feeling for him, or that good feeling again. And he can have a really bright future here. It's just going to take a little longer than people expected.
All right, we're going to talk about what Reggie thinks that Arizona should do as far as maybe adding some players and whatnot to the equation. But what do you think about the nickname? First of all, the official brew of PHNX Sports is 4 Peaks. What do you think of that nickname for the U of A big men this past year, the 4 Peaks? Ballo, Tabellis, Vasar, and Anderson. Sure, 2 of them do their work behind the scenes, but that's 4 Peaks there, Reggie.
I mean, I love it. I like the 4 Peaks. Right now we're 2 Peaks. The other 2 have to earn theirs. Right. But if we can get to 4 and confident 4 Peaks, that would be huge.
All right, now, as far as the read goes, new coach, new GM. The Cardinals have the 3rd pick in the draft. It's a big opportunity for our team. The best place to take in this pivotal moment and the rest of the NFL draft on April 27th is at 4th Peaks, 8th Street Pub. Must be 21 years or up to enjoy. And Tap and Bottle. We've had many Tap and Bottle wash parties before. Those will be coming up again later on this year. You can get 4 Peaks there as well, but go down to the downtown or the Northwest location. Support Scott and Rebecca. They do a great job right there. Tap and Bottle, proud to be partnered with them. All right, Reg, what I think this team needs, and it feels weird saying this because when I was growing up, Arizona always had a bevy of these players. I mean, heck, even the Santa Clara team, you had Damon, you had Khalid, you had Chris Mills. The following year, you had Damon, you had Khalid Reeves. Then after that, even you, Miles Simon, Mike D. After that, Mike Bibby. Arizona, I believe, needs some guys that are not saying these guys aren't tough on the team, but they need some dogs, in my opinion. Some guys that, really embrace it and can make some plays off the bounce right there from an athletic perspective.
Yeah, no, they really do. And when you look at the roster for next season, kind of with the play, with Ramey leaving and Henderson, and now Kerr Kriisa, Adama Ball transferring out, and so when you look at the guard position, really it's Kylan Boswell at the one. So I'm sure they're out there looking for one, if not 2 point guards. There's no shooting guards on the roster now with Courtney Ramey left, and so you need 2 or 3 guys that really can play that shooting guard, that attacking guard position, that not only can just shoot a high volume of threes, but can put it on the floor, can get to the rim, can create the others, can get to the free throw line. So I'm sure they're heavy looking at high school kids in the transfer portal for some shooting guards. KJ Lewis, the kid who committed, I saw him. I don't know much about him. Here, great body, very physically mature. So I think he's one of these guys, maybe one of those dog type players who come here and give us a little bit of toughness. Pella's the 3, but we're going to need a backup 3.
Right.
So Tommy and Jack Murphy and the entire staff, they really have their work cut out for them, where they got to find 3 or 4 or 5 guys and in the portal in high school that are not only good players but are ready to go day one.
What do you think about the portal, Reg? Are you a fan?
I am a fan of the portal, but not, I'm not a fan of everything about it. I don't like the in-conference. You can transfer in-conference without having hits. I think that's a little much. Multiple times, I think there should be some kind of, I don't want to use the word penalty, but some kind of stopgap where, it stops kids from going to 2 and 3 schools.
Right.
And I'm all for the ability for kids to move around, but I think there should be some stopgaps to maybe slow it down. Having over 1,000 kids or 1,500 kids or 2,000, wherever it's going to occur this transfer portal, that's too much.
Right. I totally agree with you. I think the way that they're going to have it going forward is actually pretty good, where you get 1 free transfer, and then after that, if you're going to transfer, you got to sit out a year just like any red shirt would back in the day. And if you're a grad transfer, you can go where you want, because at that point you've graduated and you're able to do what you want at that point. You mentioned KJ Lewis. He's interesting to me because on paper, he's the kind of guy that, Arizona used to get a ton of. 6'4", pretty athletic, about 215, pretty well put together right there. I don't want to put those kind of expectations on him, but I am excited to see what he can do this coming year, especially too, because there's minutes to be had there, Reg.
No, there really is. That's one thing Arizona can shop with, is that, hey, if you come here, we have immediate minutes for you. And for a guy like KJ Lewis coming, a 4-star kid out of Duncanville, there's an opportunity here where he can come in, and whether it's on the defensive end or offensive end, really have an impact on his team. But, like I say, Coach Lloyd, just needs to find more of those going forward. Today's game, and I'm pretty sure you spoke about this in the past, it's not about it's not about it's not a youth movement. It's about getting older. The older teams are the teams that are winning now. So everyone's fighting to get older. KJ Lewis is, even though he's younger, he's an older body with his size, but Arizona needs to find some guys that are going to come in and produce, from day one.
When I look at the health of this conference right here from a basketball perspective, and again, the 90s to me was always kind of the apex of Pac-12 basketball, because Arizona was a top 5 to 10 program. UCLA was a top 5 to 10 program. By the way, UCLA with Herrick was the only time I don't want to say feared UCLA, but that was the only time as an Arizona fan that I'm like, man, their players are as good as us and they're really well coached. That was that little time frame right in there. Stanford was a top 10 team, but you always had other teams too. You had the Jason Kidd, Cal, Lamont Murray teams. You had Washington with Bob Bender being occasionally good. Oregon the same way. Reggie, Arizona's done their part, UCLA's done their part, but I just don't see that top to bottom the way that I grew up with. Is that something that I'm just, forgetting, or is that something when you guys go on the road and check stuff out, you're like, yeah, it's not the same, from just because you got so much team. You got Cal's not good, Stanford's not good, Oregon State isn't good. These were at least teams that were competitive when you were coming up.
Yeah, I probably would agree with you. I still think the top of the Pac-12 is very strong. Whether those first 1 through 5 teams or 1 through 4 good teams, they're gonna have NBA guys on most of these teams for the most part, well coached. But there is definitely a drop off middle to the bottom, where it's been a larger drop off than maybe in years and decades past, where it's a little bit glaring.
Right.
And especially when you start looking at some of the non-conference games early in the season when the Pac-12's out there in the wild in the country, and then not getting those good quality wins. They're actually having bad losses against teams they shouldn't be losing to from smaller conferences. So that part's a little bit more glaring, middle to the bottom of the Pac-12. I think the top is still the top. And we just need to we just need to do better. We need to recruit better. There's been a lot of turnover at some of these schools where you're seeing a number of different coaches, every year, 2-3 years, changing out coaches. That's
right.
never fine. And so the stability wise, we need to come a little bit more stable. Recruiting needs to be better so we can get our national brand as the Pac-12 at a higher level.
He is the great Reggie Geary, all-time defensive player at the University of Arizona. Reg, as always, appreciate you coming on, my man, and we will be in touch.
Yeah, that sounds great, Mike. Thanks again, man. Everybody out there. Go.
All right, Reg. Reg, you're a superstar, dude. Thanks again, buddy. All right, that's about. Reggie was one of my handful of favorite players growing up. Right there, my mom always loved his facial expressions when he was playing defense. Right there, because it was just something. It was just a very, very entertaining time, and he was on quite a few of my favorite teams. Right there. All right, we're gonna get to a bunch of comments right here. We got all these comments coming in right here. But Derek Pivko asks a question. He said, "Has Reggie been to Circle K before?" I did not ask Reggie this, but I'm assuming that Reggie Geary has been to Circle K. All right, now here's the deal. You might say to yourself, Mike, what's so great about Circle K? Everything's great about Circle K. They serve everybody in the community right here. You can go to the toughest intersections in town. Guess what? Circle K. You can go to the nicest areas, Circle K. Jacob Franklin. You might find somebody that Jacob Franklin's size of all 7'3" of him. You will find him at Circle K. Or you might find me at Circle K as well. I am not 7'1". They are here for the community, and they got great prices all the way around. Make sure you're not missing out on this great stuff. Head to circlek.com/store locator, circlek.com/store locator to find a Circle K near you. They're everywhere. They shouldn't be hard to find right there. Okay, now, a couple people talking in here about Tommy's left nut. I think Philip can be a solid player. This is going to be a big year for him right here. I do believe that if Philly B is able to get into the rotation this year, that he is going to be he'll be able to contribute. But if he's not able to really burst his way into the rotation, you kind of worry that it could be a little bit of an Adama Ball situation. I generally believe with these guys, by year 2, you kind of at least know where you're going with what you're going to be able to have. Lyle Rippart right here. KJ's game is nice. I love KJ Lewis. I think when you look at some of the national rankings, I think he's woefully underrated, and I think he checks off a lot of boxes. That's the kind of guy right there that you want if you're the University of Arizona, and that's something that I think this team had a little bit of short supply in. Again, I don't want to make it out like this team wasn't good, because this team was very, very good, but there were some real weaknesses right there. All right, now some questions right here. Tommy's left nut. Will any big news happen this week? I expect big news to happen this week. I expect Arizona's roster situation to be a little bit more resolved right here, and so again, I would watch the next 48 hours or so. That should be interesting, because again, we'll find out where we're at, and we'll have an emergency podcast if that happens. So make sure you write down the emergency podcast, even though you don't know what time it is. Make sure, though, that it would be right there. And maybe that's where we get the great Jacob Franklin to hop on and make his show debut. Okay, but I think Reggie hit the nail on the head on pretty much everything. I disagree with him a little bit, I think, on Pella. I don't know that Pella's ever going to be that 18-point per game guy, but I'd love to be wrong on that. You essentially have your starting, or at least some of your pieces right in there. You know that Umar is going to start. You know that Kylan Boswell is going to start. I don't know if we want Pella Larson to start because he's so good coming off the bench, but he's at least an option there. So that means that you got room for a couple dynamic scoring wings, guards, hint, 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 wink, wink, as the kids like to say out there. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Abraham Mendoza, we need individual defenders to anchor the defense. Agreed with you on that. Because, again, when Arizona is at its best, it's got guys that are able to make those kind of contributions, like a Reggie Geary, like a Jason Terry, guys like that. Abraham Mendoza, you knew exactly where I was going. Pac-12 TV deal. We will be talking about that in just a second, as I have some things to say on that. Now, Lost Highway. Hey, Mike, what do you make of Jerome Tang's quote about Tommy losing hold of the culture this year? I don't actually hate it. But again, what you got to remember about this is that Tommy Lloyd's also a first-year or a second-year coach. So this is a learning process. At the end of the day, he's the winningest coach ever in his first couple of years. But every coach has got to learn some things. I mean, we just had, Lute Olson went through 3 first-round exits in 4 years. Had to be able to basically change his whole philosophy from having the big plotting big men to being able to get out there and let guys like Reggie run and do their thing. So again, we are not that's something though that I think Arizona fans need to keep in mind. But again, I didn't actually hate the comments because again, Tommy Lloyd's a great coach, but I think it was a little bit of a learning experience this past year for him. And I expect him, like any wise student, to be able to make that next step. All right. Now the big show right here. Well, we had just had Reggie Geary on. That was the big show. But Pac-12 TV deal right there. Abraham Mendoza, you obviously follow me on Twitter right there. So here's called a tease though first. I got 2 Phoenix locker reads right here. Now you might say to yourself, Mike, what is a Phoenix locker read? Well, you know what? We're about to find out right here. Here's the deal. You can become a diehard today. Check out https://PHNXlocker.com to grab your membership and to receive exclusive content, discount on all events and merch, and access to our Discord chats. Everybody's getting on there. You should get on there. Check it out. Again, I'm going to read this again later on. That's how important this is right here. I see Jacob Franklin smirking right there. Okay, now, John Canzano, been telling you from day one, with the Pac-12 deal, don't believe what he's telling you right here. And it's all bearing out. It's all coming to fruition right here. When it comes, let's see here. Not Phoenix. I don't know. Jacob just texted me that. My bad. Sorry. Can you put everything back? Sorry. Hold on. This is where I'm an idiot. All right. I'm back. But let's talk about what John Canzano put out there. Keep in mind, writer or independent guy, he said back on August 6, 2022, he expected a TV deal right around the corner. I talked with some people at the U of A. Every now and then somebody's nice to me. And they said, they laughed at that. They said, he's obviously not talking to anybody. Then he started going in this whole 4 corner sources thing that he was talking with people in Arizona and all these schools. He wasn't. And that's why his information is so wrong. That's why his article today was so great, where he said that essentially, well, you know what? Why actually paraphrase when I can get you the exact quotes right here? Hold on just a second right here. Okay, so here's where it starts. Some of the Pac-12 presidents and chancellors contributed to an increased public expectation by mentioning March and April media rights timelines during interviews in the last 6 weeks. And one conference source told me on Wednesday, I realized we played a role in that. No, when you're just talking to people like Oregon State and Washington State who have every interest in keeping the conference together, of course they're going to say that. But here's really the big one right here. The Pac-12 is right now working to manage and reframe the expectations on the timing of its media rights deal. The conference hasn't made a public comment on the matter and likely won't, but the tone of the conversations I'm having feels measured. The CEO groups meet next week, but I'm skeptical the conference will vote to finalize its media deal this month. I've been telling you guys all that forever, and again, it's not that I'm Nostradamus. It's every now and then somebody cool is talking to me. Don't listen to any of this stuff. There is no deal right now. They're not even close to a deal. And honestly, and again, things could change, but I just don't see, as I've said from day one, I don't see the money or the visibility ever being there. And that's what's really coming into play right here. So again, you got to be really careful on who you look at and who you listen to. Now, again, if you go on Twitter, I think people have started to figure this one out, that, just putting just laying the little toy out there 5 feet in advance, sooner or later, somebody's going to say, well, I want that toy. Again, I believe that the Big 12 is the best spot for Arizona to be. And the fact that they are this far along in the deal right now, and there's nothing substantive, leads me to believe that there is nothing substantive, nor will there be something substantive. So again, when you're reporting that August 6th, 2022 could be a TV deal, and that doesn't happen, and then you keep kicking the can down the road saying it's right around the corner, and then well, you know what? Got to take a pause and put everything on hold right here because guess what? There's some skepticism on that deal being done. Again, you just got to be careful on who you watch right here. But I do believe that this coming month, or excuse me, we will have a ton of clarity this coming month right there. Jacob Franklin, I am time stamping that, by the way, for the clip that I will send you. All right, now, Tommy, we're just going to call you TLN. How about that? Who are your favorite players in the portal? I like the kid. I like the kid out of Nevada. I think he's pretty good. 7-7. He would be a nice little contributor right there. But I would have personally taken TJ Bamba. I love TJ Bamba, but Arizona's got a different plan. And you know what? If that plan comes to fruition, that will be very good for Arizona. But TJ Bamba is the kind of guy that I'm looking at. I know that Caleb Love is not going here as he's already committed, but those are the kind of guys I'm looking at. Lyle Reppert, you got kid from D2, Taron Armstrong. Arizona's not recruiting Taron Armstrong. He won't end up here. They might have reached out to him, but he won't end up here. I think Arizona's already set at that point guard spot, and they need real difference makers right there. So that's what I think we're going to look at right here. Are we expecting more role players to come out of the portal instead of starters? No, we expect starters. You got to get starters here. I have no problem with getting a couple role players. Again, Courtney Ramey, Seth Henderson did a great job. Be totally cool with getting those dudes, but you need, in my opinion, you need to have guys that are just, again, difference makers, probably not the best term, but guys that you look at and you're like, all right, I could see him being all conference, or I could see him being all conference. Don't need pros. I'd love to have an All-American. Don't need that, but you need high-level conference level players right there. Now, again, I told you this once, so I can tell you it again. You need to become a diehard. Check out https://phnx.com to grab your membership to receive exclusive content, discounts on all events and merch, and access our Discord chats. The great thing about PHNX, it's a community. And you know what? We all support each other here. Even though ASU doesn't have a lot of good stuff to talk about right now because they're covering ASU, the guys at ASU do a great job up there, and they're all great people, even the great Jacob Franklin. And again, you got all the other sports too. You got the Suns, you got the Cardinals, you got the Coyotes, you got the D-backs. Everything's covered, so it's a good place to check out right there. BCAT, you might be onto something right there. Stay tuned. All right, little bit of a shorter show today right now. I had to get that in. We got Justin Spears coming on tomorrow. We will be going for 45 minutes to an hour. And then after that, on Friday, the Ben White. And hopefully we will have some fun information be able to put out there. Be on the lookout for a possible emergency live stream. All right. Again, appreciate all of you out there. Just making sure I got everything right here. And I believe I did. Talk to you tomorrow. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.